All right, district breakdown time. We are now talking 5A Division II. Last week you called it Region 2, the Region of Champions. Do we have a champion in this 8-team district? Especially, I'm a big fan of Summit, so let me know if Summit's that championship type team. I know several years ago you weren't a big fan, but I think we've put a bridge over those troubled waters.
I think we buried the hatchet, and I'm going to raise that Summit Jaguar flag up in this district. This is a very, very fun district. I mean, we saw it last year. It was a very competitive district. And Mansfield Summit, even as a 4 seed, probably gave South Oak Cliff their best game. South Oak Cliff only beat them 12-7, and it required a punt return at the end of the game. And when I talked to some of the coaches, they were like, man, Mansfield Summit got us ready. They were really kind of the catalyst that got us on the state championship run. And I think that Mansfield Summit might be the number 2 team in our area. We talked about some regional rankings and how we're going to do things. Obviously, I think you got to have South Oak Cliff as the number 1 team in the area as the defending state champion. But I think Summit is right there at number 2 with maybe Argyle and Emerson as your number 3 and number 4 teams. And that's kind of how the region is kind of, the area, the DFW area is playing out. But Mansfield Summit is returning just about everybody. Last year, they were so young. And, and even with that being young, at the end of the season, they got better. They got Jordan Hubbard is returning. Joseph Williams is coming back at quarterback. Amari Burgess is coming back at running back. Mario White Jr. is a fantastic defensive end. And we talked about some of the very talented defensive ends in the area. He's going to be coming back. Kylan Reed, Jaden Williams at linebacker. Mansfield Summit is returning everybody from a team that only lost to South Oak Cliff by 5. They're going to be right there, and I think they have to be considered the favorite in this district, and they're going to be a fun team to watch. They took some lumps last year, but, I think in their head, we talk about moral state championships and moral victories. I think their off-season message this year is we played South Oak Cliff better than anybody. We're the team that's going to be going through, not South Oak Cliff. South Oak Cliff graduated everybody. We are that team, and I think they have a lot of reason to have that kind of optimism. Mansfield Summit is going to be good, Ward.
That's what I like to hear. Hey, let's talk about 3 other teams. I'll let you talk about them as I throw them out there. We talked ad nauseum about how Ennis started the season so poorly, and they still managed to maneuver their way through and get through the season. We had Midlothian Heritage, who had a great season last year, despite having to switch coach out right there in the middle of summer. And then there's Everman, who played terrific as well. Are those 3 teams that you think maybe fight for those other 3 spots, or I have a feeling you might be saying somebody different?
No, you're reading my mind, Ward. You've entered the brain of the Diggs, and you have
Scary place.
Formatic in that. Midlothian Heritage is a team that I'm very interested in because we talked about a couple of weeks ago with Argyle graduating and who's going to return the offensive production. And Midlothian Heritage is almost exactly that kind of a team, except they don't have the coach that they had. Whereas obviously Todd Rogers has created that little bit of a infrastructure and a legacy for Argyle. Midlothian Heritage is changing coaches, and now they're playing up, and they're at a bit of a depth disadvantage coming up from 4A Division 1, moving to 5A Division 2, and graduating absolutely everybody. And again, you talked about Mansfield Summit giving South Oak Cliff a game. Obviously, Midlothian Heritage was right there, took them to overtime. Kobe Bailey is expected to be the quarterback this year. Noah O'Neill is expected to be the running back, but they graduate heavy. And I'm very, very worried about Midlothian Heritage. In fact, I've got them 4th in this district, and I feel like they might even drop out of the playoff race. And that's kind of a hard fall from grace after last year. But can Midlothian Heritage duplicate kind of the success and consistency that they've had? It's obviously a very resilient bunch. I'm a big fan of Midlothian ISD in general. I think they're doing things right over there. But this might be the year where they just don't have the talent to match the coaching and resilience that ISD has kind of placed onto things. I like Ennis, but I really also like Everman. Everman is a team that was right there last year. They've got their quarterback coming back, Jerry and Bassford. Isaiah McMillan is kind of an all-star tight end. He's coming back. Caden Brooks, I think you might see him play multiple positions. Matthew McBride. Everman's got the skill players. They've got the coaching. They've got a lot of the legacy and tradition. I think Everman, for me, is a number 2 team in this district, and they're kind of a sneaky 2. But I think we talk about tiers, and when we talk about tiers in this district, 1 through 4 are all really top tier teams. I think they're all 4 teams are going to see ranked in the area. But I think I think Mansfield Summit is going to be more closer to the top, whereas Everman, Ennis, and Midlothian Heritage, I think you can, it wouldn't surprise me if any of those 3 teams flipped with each other. But Wondame Davis, he's coming back at quarterback. Grayson Harris, a very good wide receivers coming back. Jalen Henderson is coming back at running back. So Ennis has, we talked about the triplets, and we talked about when you got the quarterback, running back, and receiver coming back, that your odds in my eyes are a little bit better when you have that kind of offensive production and you have that chemistry that's already had a chance to establish over a year. That's a reason why I like Everman as well to come back, and Midlothian Heritage doesn't have that, whereas the other 3 teams do have that coming back. So it's going to be fun to watch the top 4. Obviously, a kind of a big change that we have to report is the Burleson changes. We had John Kitna leave. He went to Lakota East. Here's a little bit of a trivia question, Ward. Do you know where Lakota East High School is?
It's in, no, I don't.
You're supposed to be the guy, Ward. This is your, it's out of state, obviously.
Right.
It's kind of up in your Big East kind of MAC country. It's in Cincinnati. So obviously with that, Jamison Kitna is going to be going with his dad. So they're going to lose that talent. So Chad Worrell, the new coach over there, formerly coached at Brock. I think he's a player, a coach that will be very successful over there, and I think he's going to do good things. Seth Sargent is coming back at tight end. Fabian Vasquez, a really good wide receiver, coming back. Joshua Smith at running back. But I think Burleson's going to probably be on the outside looking in at this top 5. And remember last year, Ward, I had 5 teams ranked to start out the season from this district, and you very well might see that again this year. I mean, this is how good and loaded this district is.
Yeah, that's Chad Worrell's our guy. He's a trivia question for you. He's our first ever head coach of the year bobblehead winner. And I found that interesting. He goes down to El Campo. Oh, I got Ruben Owens for 3 years. And as soon as Ruben graduates, like, all right, I'm out of here. Let's head on
out of here.
Head back up north.
He missed you. He didn't like John Foreman, I guess, having to deal with that guy.
Foreman wasn't doing it for him. We got Seguin and Joshua and Corsicana as well. You got anything to say about those 3?
Yeah, Arlington Seguin, if you remember last year, they beat Aubrey, and that kind of gave us an early chance that this team is pretty good. They've got their quarterback coming back in Cohen Peeler, Carterius Brown, a really talented wide receiver coming back. But I wonder about their lines, and in this district that's going to have massive offensive and defensive lines and talented defenses, will they be able to play? I think they'll be right there with Burleson for sure. Joshua, who beat Corsicana last year, Joshua is one of those teams that every year we think, is this going to be the year that they break through? They've got talented talented skill players at school, Ward. You can say that 5 times fast. And Jaden Poole and Brett Poole, those are going to be players to watch for Joshua. Corsicana, they've got Dante Thomas coming back, and a very talented defensive tackle in Tanner Crumpton, who is another freshman. It's the year of the defensive lineman being a freshman coming out and playing for 4 years. But I think Corsicana is going to struggle in this district.
All right, let me hear you 1 through 8, man, to finish this district off.
Finish this off. Number 1, we've got the rise of Mansfield Summit, and very likely a state championship contender this year. We may be seeing Mansfield Summit against South Oak Cliff for the right to go on to the state semifinals. Everman 2, Ennis 3, Midlothian Heritage 4, Burleson 5, Arlington Seguin 6, Joshua 7, and Corsicana 8.
I like it, and I'm sure they love the fact that over there at Summit that you're putting this added pressure on them in April. Get to the spring practices and work your butts off, because Dixie's got you in the state title game. Let's go.
I did not say that, South Oak Cliff fans. We'll talk more about that next week when we talk about the reigning and defending state champions of the world, the South Oak Cliff Golden Bears.
I can't wait, brother.